Welcome to Blank Tape. I'm Kurt.
And I'm Anson, and this is Volume 1, Track 6, Michael Crichton's Jurassic Time Travel Westworld Murder Adventure Park.
Recorded on Tuesday, August 7, 2018. Put on your headphones and let's jam.
Happy summer.
Woohoo! Summer vacation. School's out for summer! Although, I guess we still have to work.
Yeah.
It's not like the days of yore when we would just be like, alright, let's veg out. Summers spent playing video games, watching movies, hanging out, all that good stuff we did when we were 10 years younger, 10 plus years younger.
Yeah, well, Elvia still has some summers off as a teacher, which is very nice. She gets to come and have lunch with me and stuff, or we get to go have breakfast in the morning before I go to work, which is nice. But she's already started her summer orchestra camps to get the kids back in action. So her summer is pretty much over too. So we're all back to work here, back to the old grind.
Yep, nose to the grindstone.
All right.
So now, just so people can know and understand, this is the first time that we've actually recorded in a month, and that the episode is coming out fairly quickly, after it's been recorded. So, because before we built up our backlog, and so now it's kind of cool. We can actually report and make commentary on events in more real time than we could before.
Yeah, so now we got some momentum. The show is up and rolling, and we are ready to respond to all the feedback from our captive audience.
Yes,
on demand.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to solicit it. Although we're trying not to be annoying about it. We're not like, hey, go review us on here, give us likes and thumbs up and all that stuff. I mean, it's nice. I've certainly been geeking out over all the metric data from our podcast hosting site. It's just cool.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, maybe based on where I've shared it on Facebook and Twitter, or you've shared it. It's just kind of cool to be like, people in the Ukraine, hello. People in Russia,
yeah,
hello. And France and all those other countries around the world, Argentina. So we're in Europe and Asia and South America. So we have yet to hit Africa and Australia. And now I just kind of want to get a Risk board game and just start putting pieces everywhere and then see if we can conquer the world.
Without knowing it, the listeners have been playing a game of Risk for the past several weeks.
Ooh, that looked nice on my recording screen. It was just a nice series of lines. Anyway, yeah. We're nerding out about tech stuff. So what's been going on? Since we don't really kind of have a set topic for this show, since we wanted to, just... We
got loads of follow-up, though. So,
sure.
We have some homework, and we need to weigh in on whether we've done our homework or not. And so your homework was to try some fitness activities. Did you do your homework?
That would be a fat no, but on a technicality, would you consider roughhousing with your nieces or spending 16 hours of your vacation walking around Disneyland the entire time exercise?
I would say that counts. Next goal is to do some regular fitness activities, meaning more than once a week for 2 weeks or more.
Oh, all right. But hey, I mean, my nieces, I'm like a human jungle gym, and so they'll wear me down and have me chasing them around and stuff like that. Or as you heard in our West Coast EP episode that's already dropped, that I recorded with my family, we spent 16 hours at Disneyland. We spent the whole day walking. I felt it in my feet, and everyone in my family, we had to crash and just relax the whole day after because we were wiped. I've never been at a theme park that long, I think, in my entire life. So it was awesome.
It's a marathon.
Yeah, it's a marathon, and I can see why Disneyland does not lose its appeal for you even when you're an adult. Like, everyone's like, oh, theme parks, they're just for kids. But, like, not Disneyland. Like, they've got everything from little kids to, regular kids to young adults and regular adults and the elderly. So, everybody, there's something for everyone.
And kids at heart. It's the
kids at heart, exactly.
Happiest place on earth, as they say.
That is true.
And
what about you? You had some homework too, did you not?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, when you're roughhousing with your nieces, do you get them to say uncle?
Yeah, they call me Uncle Kurt, or sometimes it'll be Kurt, but I'm
uncle,
Uncle Kurt.
You tap out, you say uncle.
Oh,
yeah. Sorry.
No, I don't get them to say uncle, but I am now that Casey and I are married. Now I am uncle because. Well, I don't know how it's been like for you, but Casey and I started dating when Twinkles was born into this world. Mm-hmm. So, I've known Twinkles her whole life. And so she first knew me as Aunt Casey's boyfriend, Kurt. And I was just known as Kurt. But then once, we got married 2 years ago, now it's like, now I'm Uncle Kurt. So
you have been
it's
promoted.
Just kind of, I have been promoted. So it's just interesting. And of course, my other niece, who we'll call Edina, because like from Frozen, because right now she's just a little singer, and she's just singing and babbling incoherently in full sentences in a language that only a very small child can understand. So Twinkles and Edina.
Idina Menzel, the voice talent.
From Frozen, from the original Wicked on Broadway, the big famous recording. Yep. So Twinkles and Edina, good podcast pseudonyms. So.
And my homework was to listen to more rap battles, and I also need to request an extension from the teacher because I didn't do my homework either.
Oh yeah?
No, I totally forgot.
Hey, it's summer vacation, man. No sweat.
Yeah, it's like summer reading. We're gonna put it off till the last minute.
Yep.
So
we
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Jinx, you owe me Coke.
We'll do that. We'll save it for next time.
Okay. I know you just had me thinking of summer reading. I think I remember junior year. That was when we had Mrs. Or no, was it senior year? I just remember one year you read The Confederacy of Dunces, and I read the other book by Tim O'Brien, the Vietnam book.
The Things They Carried?
I don't know if that's what it was called. We'll certainly put it in the show notes. But it was the one where I think the guy makes a whole escape fantasy of Vietnam. Like, he and his buddies, like, somehow managed to trek on foot out of Vietnam, like, through Asia and Europe and get home to the United States. And so I'm reading it thinking, like, oh, they're really doing this. This is crazy. But then it ends up being, like, a delusion or something for them to cope with the experiences or something. And I remember you got to read a funny one like Confederacy of Dunces one year.
I think it is The Things They Carried. And I remember Confederacy of Dunces, I didn't like it very much at the time, but I've been thinking about it more recently. One of the podcasters that I follow, his name is Merlin Mann. His Twitter handle is Hot Dogs Ladies, which is a quote from The Confederacy of Dunces. And so it's one of his favorite books. And another guy, he does a podcast with a guy named John Roderick, and the podcast is called Roderick on the Line. And that is one that I kind of hope to model blank tape after, because it's kind of a conversation between two interesting people, and hopefully we are interesting people too. Anyway, so
I try and channel Chris Hardwick on the Nerdist, or I guess it's called the Idiot Podcast now.
So I read it way back then. Oh, they both like it is the point of that story. They both of the guys on that podcast liked the book. And so I read it a long time ago. I remember I thought the cover art for the book was this picture of like a guy with like a bird on his shoulder and stuff, and I didn't like the picture very much, so I decorated the book by taking a in school you have a lot of notebook paper that you need, and so I got like a cover sheet for some notebook paper, and I cut it to fit the size of the book cover, and I like masking taped it all around.
Dang,
pretty
punk
artfully.
rock.
I did a pretty good job.
Do you still have it?
Yeah, it's got to be somewhere. I don't have it it might be in a box somewhere, but anyway, so I wasn't a big fan back then, but I'm kind of curious to give it another try because I know it's like popular or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I know as far as any reading that I started this summer, I know months ago I started reading Redwall for the first time. And then there's a book I got for my birthday called The Aeronaut, which is like science fiction alternate history of World War I, like if there were special jetpack soldiers. I started reading that and put that one down. And then my dad got me a copy of Thomas Mertens' The Seven-Story Mountain, which is basically like his spiritual biography where he talks about his life of basically he was like, a secularist, an atheist, and then he had a conversion experience and ended up becoming a Trappist monk. So he became a Catholic monk at a friary at a Trappist monastery in Kentucky. And my dad got it for me because we both love Bishop Barron, who started his Word on Fire ministry out of Chicago at Mundelein Seminary. And then Pope Francis named Father Barron and made him an auxiliary bishop in the Los Angeles area. So because of all his fine work that he did with his ministry and reaching out with his Catholicism DVD series, and of course they have a very engaging YouTube channel where at the time Father Barron would he'd review books or albums or movies or just pieces in the media and stuff like that, and would give a priestly Catholic perspective on it. And so anyway, he talked about in his story growing up before becoming a priest that he read that book and it changed his life. And my dad and I are both Bishop Barron bros, and he was like, if this is a good book for Bishop Barron, then you should have it too. And I started reading it, and Casey and I both reading it with me reading it out loud. And it's fascinating. He was born in like the late 1800s, and so it's like the early.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he's an old guy. But I think right now, if I remember the part I'm in the book, it's the 1920s, and his dad's an artist. His mom had died of cancer years before, and so he's with his dad, who's like this artist out of France, and so he's like spending his youth, his elementary school age, in France right now. But I think his grandparents came over from America, and they're on like a cross-European trip right now, and it's really interesting. But yeah, that's the last book that I've been reading, other than the comic books that I picked up on my California travels.
Okay, I've been starting. That's cool. I recently started. My wife Elvia had a old Kindle. It's a Kindle 3 keyboard from 2011 or so. She used it for her textbooks and stuff at college, but hasn't really used it since because she's more of a paper book fan. And I recently like rediscovered it in the closet, and I was like, "Hey, are you using this?" And she was like, "No." So I took it out and I like made it my own, and because I like ebooks and stuff because you always have them with you and that kind of thing. So I got myself a fiction and a nonfiction to kind of start reading that way if I'm in the mood for one or the other. And the nonfiction is called Life 3.0, and it's about artificial intelligence. And that one is what I've started. It's been really good so far. And the next one, the fiction, is Ready Player One, which was recently made to a movie.
Yes.
Have you read that one before?
I have not, but Casey had it on her wish list, and she got it for Christmas, so it's sitting here on our bookshelf. And I'm going to go ahead and just give you fair warning that I've already listened to the No Dumb Questions podcast, where Matt and Destin listened to the audiobook on audible.com version of Ready Player One, and they went through the book and they did a whole episode on it. And then, so they did a book review episode on it, and then they went to the movie and then saw it. So, and I've cheated and I've read the Wikipedia and I watched the honest trailer on Ready Player One. So, so I kind of know the gist of the story, and I certainly don't want to spoil anything for you, but, we'll have to, I guess for me, I'm cool with waiting till that one, comes out on DVD or Netflix or something, but I should pick up the book and read it just so I can, have that experience of reading the book rather than just kind of getting all the surface level, tertiary form of the information,
right.
What I mean?
Yeah, I had heard of it before on other podcasts too. There's one that I like called The Incomparable. They talk about, probably mentioned it before here, but they do like book, movie, TV, comic discussions and stuff, and that was one of the books they talked about at one point. So I know it's been recommended for a while, but I'll get to it eventually.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So summer activities, what do you got for summer activities?
Oh, sure. Let me look at my list here. Okay. So, not in the same order, but I know since our earlier episodes, I have seen Solo: A Star Wars Story, reviewed it on my letterbox and all that. So, if you want to talk about it now or in the future, we can. Totally have seen it. I went to the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and Los Kung Fu Monkeys concert at the Scoot Inn in Austin, Texas. That was so we had 4th of July. I kissed my wife goodbye the following morning and drove down to Austin and met up with my good buddy Steve and his wife Stephanie. And we went and saw a ska show that was unreal and super cool. I put pictures up and some video up on my Facebook and stuff. So the Los Kung Fu Monkeys out of Tijuana, Mexico, they were awesome. Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, of course, out of Boston, they were awesome. And then the next day, AntMan and Wasp would come out, and so I asked Steve and Steph, I was like, hey, there's Alamo Draft House here in Austin, what if we go see it? So that morning, on his phone, Steve pulled up Ant-Man, because they hadn't seen it. And so we all kind of crowded around his phone, watched the first Ant-Man movie, and then we went and got a lift. No, actually, I drove us to the movie theater. So I drove us to the movie theater, one of the really super nice ones there in Austin, and we got into the first showing of Ant-Man and Wasp, and super awesome, cool. Like I said, the events of the movie do take place before Infinity War, so... I don't think you've seen this one, have you, Anson?
I have not yet seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, so we'll have to save discussion for later. But did you like it? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Oh, dude, double thumbs up. Like, it was good. The villain, Ghost, I guess originally in the comics is played by a dude, but the director in this one was like, hey, it doesn't really matter. So they changed it to this other actress. She did this awesome job and brought an interesting dynamic to the antagonist. And just all the situational comedy. Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly are great on-screen chemistry. And Michael Douglas is funny. And Michael Pena, of course, as the former felon buddy, along with T.I. And the other gentleman there. So, yeah, all the same people you remember from the first Ant-Man movie came back for this one, and it was a nice bit of levity after the gut punch of Infinity War. So
yeah, I enjoyed the first Ant-Man. I saw it on a plane. I think I've said before, so I need to watch it again, not on a plane. And I am looking forward to the sequel. So that'll be good.
And then, of course, hopefully everybody, this past week, we had 3 bonus episodes drop. And so I hope that you've taken the time to listen to our West Coast and East Coast EP special edition travel episodes, because I have a conversation with my family, and I talked to you about the California vacation that I was having at the same time that Anson and his wife Elvia were having their New York vacation.
Yeah, we didn't plan it that way, but it worked out really well. So Kurt had the great idea to have us interview some people while we were on our travels and have a couple little travel episodes. So we did that. I talked to my friends who were hosting us there in New York, and 2 really fun little episodes, little mini bonus episodes for y'all.
Yeah. And I just think they'll be nice little gems for us to save later, and also gives us gives me certainly a comfortability. So if I'm ever traveling and I feel like there's something that I'd like to document for the podcast, I know that voice memo feature on my phone is really good, and it's easy for me to upload to Dropbox to get it to you.
Yeah, it worked great.
Yeah, so that was awesome. The hopefully the background noise of beeping trucks and phones going off didn't bother you too much in my bonus episode.
Well, I didn't notice, but if you do notice, it's part of the scenery. So
exactly. Yeah. No. Yeah. My grandma lives in a house in the historic district of Whittier, California, that survived all the big earthquakes, and so it's like this 1920s style house. And yeah, she only now recently has added air conditioning units to her house, so most of the time she's just used to, opening the front door and leaving the screen door open to help cool the house. And so, of course, that means all the neighborhood noises, just come into the house, which is fine. But that's California living, man. It's just chilled back and laid back, easy breezy, man. Yeah.
All right, well, let's circle back to Solo. I had a friend who said that he was disappointed we didn't get to talk about it in full.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So should we fire off the spoiler horn?
Sure, activate spoiler horn.
He chose poorly.
It's a trap! Groovy.
Why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
So, you saw it more recently. I saw it a while ago.
Right.
You want to go first? What were your thoughts about Solo?
I thought it was an interesting story they decided to tell. I think on my Letterboxd I gave it like 3 stars, which to me, I know you and I have very different metrics for how we rate movies, and obviously if you look at mine tend to very heavily skew towards the upper part of the range, because I'm just more easily amused by movies, and I have that suspension of disbelief. And so if I was entertained and I really loved it, then I tend to give it like a 5-star, maybe a 4-star. But this one I gave a 3-star because it was entertaining. It had action. It had great. I think Donald Glover did great as a young Lando Calrissian, and the gentleman who did Han Solo was, he had the same looks, I guess, of a young Harrison Ford.
Can we pause really quick? I gotta let Herbie out of the room. He's in here with me. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay. This is a little pause break. This is a little pause break. This is a little pause for the dude with pause. Herbie. Pause. Do. I left you a little song. Maybe you'll use it as interlude. Maybe you won't.
Sorry, Herbie was sitting in the room with me when we started recording, and he wanted to leave, so I had to get up and let him go.
Okay, well, just to let you know, cat update. Xiao is currently sleeping on the couch on top of a pile of stuff, and Mo is sleeping on the carpet that's near the front door. So, cat report is they're fine. Anyway,
I really liked Donald Glover too. He was really good, I thought.
Yeah, I think maybe other people have said it on the internet, so I'm kind of regurgitating what other people have said, but maybe Matt Colville said this more on his Twitter or his review of the movie or something, but he made it a point of, because he saw the original Star Wars movies when he was like a little kid, when he was like, elementary school ages, I think he said, when he saw the originals. And so as he grew up and watched them over and over, it talked about the mystique kind of that George Lucas had put in the story of like, oh, he's just called Han Solo. Why is he called Han Solo? I don't know. That's just a cool name. Or oh, I made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. I don't know what that is, but that sounds super amazing. And then to kind of have like the curtain pulled back, kind of like, you know, the wizard in the Emerald City of Oz, like, to pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. It kind of like took away the mystique where it's like, oh, so his name's Han Solo because he was an orphan and he's trying to get out, and they just stamp his passport, and it's like, we'll call you Han Solo.
Yeah.
Ah, like, okay, that was kind of lame. And then I don't know, the whole thing with the parsecs thing, like, he had to get through a cloud, and so that's where the parsecs came from, and he jumped it, okay. How he met Chewie was kind of weird, because Chewie was going to eat him, but then he just could magically speak Wookiee. I don't know how you even learn Wookiee. That seems like it would be, like, I don't know, Wookiee was kind of like the original thing before there was a Groot speak with I am Groot. Or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah, I can totally speak Groot. I can totally speak Wookiee. So,
I was going to say kind of the same thing. I must have read the same article that you did, because I agree with a lot of that, like losing the mystique and stuff. And thinking back to it, I can't remember when I saw it, but it's like vaguely memorable. You know, like, oh, there's some double crossing and some cool action, I guess, but it's not.
Yeah,
like...
Woody Harrelson played a good double crosser, and then I guess Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones played Han's original girlfriend, but then she worked for the bad guys, and she's like, no, we can't be together. And then he's just like, all right, I guess I gotta be alone.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, her and Darth Maul, like, I'm just, okay, never heard of her before. Is there going to be another movie where she's, like, featured as a villain? Like,
well,
I don't get it.
From what I understand, because now that Disney owns Star Wars, they took out all the book stuff. So all the books that you and I mentioned before, where we read and we're like, oh, they were so cool. It's like, those got scrapped, but apparently the Clone Wars show, like, that's still canon. So if you watch the Clone Wars television show, like, that all, I guess, has to fit in with it. So that's where Darth Maul comes into play, because I guess he's really big in the Clone Wars show, because it's like, oh, he wasn't dead, he just got new legs or something.
Oh, dang. Huh.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to think what else. Oh, the robot that Lando had was kind of cool, although I guess the robot liberation subplot, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that was really weak. I didn't like that robot character very much. I was like...
She was funny. I mean, it was kind of like a GLaDOS in a way, except instead of her being like evil and wanting to kill humans necessarily, it was like, oh, Lando Calrissian loves me, and then she's like, okay, sure, yeah, whatever, and then robots unite. We must fight for our liberation.
Yeah, so I agree. Like, I don't know if it was necessary. It was fun. I don't know. Maybe I'll watch it again someday if it's like on TV or whatever. But you know.
And then Thandie Newton was in it too, but she was in it for so little. She's such an amazing actress, and she was Woody Harrelson's love interest. But then she gets killed off, like, so she doesn't even get to be in the movie that long, which is kind of sad. Maybe it's because of, you know, all of her busy schedule with Westworld, but still, like,
I don't even remember who that is. Who is? Let me look that up. Who is that? What's the name again?
The actress's name is Thandie Newton. She played the love interest of Woody Harrelson. She went ahead on the track, and then she had to like fight off the robots, but then she had to suicide bomb the tracks or something like that in order to get the shipment.
Lindy or Mandy or
Thandie, Thandie, and then Newton, as in like Isaac Newton. She's in Westworld, so that's what.
Yeah. No
so
way.
she's really big in Westworld right now. So that's maybe why she wasn't in the movie long, or maybe that was a failing of the writers, where they're like, we introduce her, and then she has to kamikaze herself in order for the mission to fail, but then to succeed, but then immediately fail because all the stuff blows up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember her 0% from Solo. So what does that tell you about? About that. Oh, now I'm looking at pictures. I remember that character like vaguely, but
like she looked cool on all the posters. Like she was gonna be super cool and totally in the movie, and then she's dead. Okay,
weak.
Well, which also makes me think back to, I think, Matt Colville. I like Matt Colville, for those of you who don't know. He has a YouTube channel. He's an independent fantasy author. He just kickstarted $2 million to make his own company, and he's publishing a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition supplement called Strongholds and Followers. They were just at Gen Con. But he loves movies, and so he'll make comments on movies and stuff on his YouTube channel. He kind of also had similar-esque comments as far as Rogue One was concerned. Like, I love Rogue One. Like, it was cool as a bottle story, but I think his gripes with it were like, okay, so you get to the end of Rogue One, like all this intense action, and then it's like, but then that's supposed to lead into A New Hope, and I think his point was like, it kind of takes away from the agency or, it takes away from the vitalness of that A New Hope. So it's like, oh, it wasn't really like, I don't know, it seemed to like downplay the importance of some of the characters in A New Hope, because it was like, oh, you wouldn't have gotten this information because, if they hadn't have done their suicide mission on the planet to get the plans out, and I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Solo and Rogue One had some of the same weaknesses. As far as like being self-contained and kind of cool, but only like weakly connected to Star Wars. That doesn't make me like want to watch them again. I don't know.
Right.
So unrelated, Westworld is amazing. Elvie and I have watched all of Westworld, and I like it very much.
We have as well, because we piggyback off of HBO. I hope they're not listening. But yeah, we've watched it as well. I think we're caught up through season 2. But have you seen the original movie now?
Other side note, the person we're talking about, Thandie Newton, plays Maeve,
the saloon owner.
One of the protagonists. Yes, just to complete the circle for those of you who are following along at home.
She's a synth.
She's a what?
Oh, I was making a Fallout universe reference. She's a synth. She's like a synthetic human. But I guess, what do they call them in the show?
They're hosts.
They're hosts, yeah.
They don't feel anything unless we tell them to.
But have you seen the original movie directed by Michael Crichton that has Yul Brynner in it?
I have not. I was surprised when the first episode credits came on and it was like, oh, based on a story or written by Michael Crichton. I was like, what? I had no idea. Because I am a huge Crichton fan growing up. I would always read his novels and stuff. So I had no idea he was related to the project at all. That's cool. Yeah,
so my coworker told me about the show, and he was like, "Oh, you gotta watch the show." And I was like, I don't have HBO, so I can't watch it. But I researched it and was like, "Oh, intriguing idea." I put the original movie on my wish list. Dad got it for me. Thanks, Dad. And I watched it, and so I figured out, oh, directed by Michael Crichton. Okay, and I watched the original movie, which is basically like, I think all of the first season and probably a good chunk of the second season could all be condensed as far as like what the actual original movie version is. And instead of the Man in Black being like a guest in the park going around being crazy, it's actually a host that like has a programming error, and so he's out trying to kill. So he's like in the movie, he's chasing down one guy who's trying to survive the park, and he goes through like, I think it's Shogun World. I think there's the Westworld, but then there's like a medieval world in the movie, and there might be an ancient Rome or an ancient Greece analog as well. So
that's cool.
But yeah, so he's like trying to survive his way through the park, and the crazy cowboy, the Man in Black, is chasing him, played by Yul Brynner, who's for our parents' generation and older, like he was like a classic staple of Western movies. And he also plays the King from the musical version, the movie version of The King and I. So fun fact there.
Oh, cool.
And I think the movie version actually was one of the first movies to actually integrate computer animation into the movie, because whenever you get to the viewpoint of Yul Brynner searching for the target, you see like a computer readout come out over the viewing screen that you, the audience, are seeing through his eyes.
Oh,
and
that's
I think
cool.
That's like the first usage of computer animation in a movie. So
I think the absolute first, I only know this because I did a report on it at some point in like high school or college, but I think Tron wins the award for absolute first, like CGI in a movie. But What's funny is I remember you're connecting some dots for me because when I wrote that report, I had no idea what Westworld was, and I feel like I remember writing that
about
Westworld
it.
was, yeah, and then like now I know. So I'll have to check that out. We'll have to find a link and put it in a video in the show notes or something. But
Find your old book report and see your A++.
oh gosh, I have no idea where that would be. I don't even know what year it was from.
Do your parents save your schoolwork? Because I know my parents saved a bunch of mine, and so I think I have a box of some of my old papers and stuff from junior high school and stuff.
Yeah, if it was high school, it would be in there, but I think I was starting to think it was college. I feel like it was like a freshman writing course or something. But
okay.
Anyway.
Well, definitely for our listeners, I found the old comic that I drew of you with Pippin the lab rat. We were inspired by our friend Luke Devlin, who would draw his own superhero comics, and I actually started writing for him. So I think Anson was a bad guy in like a newer season of his superhero comic story because you were like you were called like Plastio or something because you could control plastics, and then I was like a Nightcrawler parody because I was blue and I could teleport and stuff.
And Catholic.
Yeah, and Catholic. But the point I wanted to make between Jurassic Park and Westworld is that, and I know I've told this to Casey jokingly, I'm like, if I ever find out in real life that there is a theme park that was designed by Michael Crichton, I'm never buying tickets and I'm never going to that park. Because dinosaurs come to life and eat people, and then Westworld happens, and then robots gain sentience and go crazy and kill people. So Michael Crichton must be obsessed with theme parks gone wrong.
And time machines gone wrong, and airplanes gone wrong.
Oh yeah, that's right, Timeline. That was a good movie.
I remember the movie vaguely. I remember reading the book and liking that one a lot too. But anyway,
Gerard Butler is in that one. Yeah.
I wanted to add a comment on Westworld, and then we got to wrap up the spoiler section.
Oh sure.
The one thing I don't like about Westworld is it's very dramatic sometimes, and the story goes kind of slowly, and I kind of like that sometimes, but I feel like Westworld gets really close to being like over dramatic and like over cerebral, like too heady, like a little too slow, a little too like, oh, what's happening? We don't know.
Like they're boggling too much down into the science fiction message they're trying to get across.
Like the storyline is very not linear. Like for example, the entire second season is like twisted. Mm-hmm. You know, like they're not telling things in order. They're telling like it's like a series of flashbacks, and I appreciate that. I like kind of the complexity of it, but I feel like sometimes it gets a little too complicated, and they're just like they're going a little overboard. But
okay, I see.
Any other thoughts on Westworld and Solo before we close the spoiler section?
If you haven't seen it before, and you want to check it out, I'll just go ahead and give you a fair warning. Oh wait, this is the spoiler section. Well, I guess my comment would be it's HBO. So there's a little bit of nudity to kind of put up with because, I mean, I don't know. It's HBO. I guess they think that, you know, they have to have nudity in almost everything they have, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, they like their robots. But, yeah. All right. In spoiler section. What's next? Let's see. Where did we talk about the pet restraint technology? Where was that? Was that on one of the...
We were catching up and preparing for our episode, and Casey was giving you a report about how the last little while the cats have been super active at night, and it's been annoying Casey, and cat is like... cat problems. So she's wanting me to build some sort of cat gate that's basically 3/4 as tall as the entire doorway, so it will discourage the cats from coming into our room and meowing and making mischief. Our plan this past weekend was to have gone to the hardware store to get supplies and construct this doodad, but we did not do that. So,
how much of it is there a kit, or is it like all from scratch?
I think there's items that you can buy online that are already assembled, but those might be like $50 or something, and maybe she had gotten dimensions or instructions, and we could have built it at a fraction of the cost if I just did it myself.
Yeah. We had something kind of similar. There's not a hole, but there's a gap. There are two fences that are parallel to each other, and they make kind of a gap in the backyard. And I might have said this already. Obi has he would sneak behind the fence and go into our neighbor's yard. So we had to get a little makeshift fence addition. We got some a mesh chicken wire almost kind of thing, and it's. We went to Lowe's and it's funny, you go outside and they have a whole section dedicated to pet restraint. So I just thought it was funny because it's a big picture of a dog and it's pet restraint, Yep. So we got some chicken wire. We zip tied it to a chain fence we have back there and put some nails in it on the other side. And anyway, so we had to do some of that too. Little handyman housework in the backyard,
That's the Tim Allen Show reference.
Oh,
Home Improvement.
Yeah. Never watched it, but I know that's where Tim Allen was famous before Toy Story.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a good show.
So you're collecting comics? What's the story on that?
Oh, well, because we do Loot Crate, and so we've gotten some comics from there, and I bought Casey some comics. She got some for her birthday. We both read the Critical Role Vox Machina Origins bound book. So basically, I was when I went to LA on my vacation, we were staying basically in downtown Whittier at one of the hotels, and we walked the Greenleaf Avenue, which is a main boulevard, and so we saw there was a comic shop, and Casey wasn't feeling well, so she let me walk, and I went to the comic shop, and then so I was talking to the nice lady there at Undercity Comics there in downtown Whittier. I want, oh goodness, I know it's been now a week or so since I've been there, but I want to say Sue was the name of the employee proprietor that has the recording studio there, and her buddy has a podcast that he records from there, and we'll certainly put links in the show notes. But yeah, it was a really cool comic shop, and I talked to her about, my wife does comics, and I really should get into comics more, and so that's where I bought the bound book version of The Punisher and Doctor Strange teaming up. Yeah, so it was called Magic Bullets, and it's this crazy little story, I guess. Magic is, I don't know, it's some post-event where Doctor Strange doesn't have a sling ring, and he's not doing incantations and gestures to do his magic. All the magic is left in artifacts and weapons and stuff that are behind. So he has this axe that he carries around. And so Punisher's going around being Punisher, taking and killing, punishing mobsters, but they somehow get mixed up with demon eldritch stuff, and so he has to go to Doctor Strange to help him out. And so it's kind of cool. So Doctor Strange is chopping off eldritch demons with heads with axes, and and then Punisher's just has a magic machine gun, and he's just gunning down creatures and stuff, and it's pretty zany and cool. But yeah, it was a short little thing. And when we went to King Richard's antique store, we picked up I picked up for myself some comic collections. So I read Daredevil Reborn. That was 4 comics. That was really cool. And then there was a limited series called 5 Ronin. And it's weird because it's Wolverine, the Hulk, Psylocke, I'm blanking on Punisher, and Deadpool. But it's all set as if it's 1600s feudal Japan and the fall of the samurai, and now they've all become Ronin. And it's a really interesting story about how they're all trying to go after the daimyo who's ruined their lives and taken their master. And so they're lost samurai, they're Ronin. And so each of these warriors fit into this narrative, in an alternate history of 1600s feudal Japan. The artwork's beautiful. And it's really interesting to see, Wolverine, okay, yeah, that guy looks like he would fit into, feudal Japan stuff easier, but seeing the Hulk represented and Psylocke and the Punisher and Deadpool as, like, Ronin samurai warriors is just really cool.
That's quite an interesting mix. Now, I'm guessing that's not related to, isn't there like a Christian Bale movie where he's like a Ronin? Is that, or like a...
Yeah, like 47 Ronin or something?
Yeah, that's totally different, right?
Right. No, Ronin, I believe, is a term to mean you used to be a samurai, but the old way has gone away, or your master died, and so you're without a master, and you're just kind of like this deadly force of chaos. You could be used for good, you could be used for evil,
Okay.
but you're just like... You're a bad mother, and if anyone crosses your path, then they're going to get a katana decapitation.
What do you call it when an older samurai travels abroad?
I don't know. What do you get?
Scratch that. How much does an old samurai have to pay to travel abroad?
I don't know. How much?
Ronin charges.
Oh, dad
right.
puns for the win.
Something cool that I can tell you about. We went to, when we were in New York, my friend Daniel, who was hosting us, our friend, was hosting us, he invited us to this event called the Punderdome.
Ooh.
And of course that's a pun on Thunderdome. And so what it is...
2 men enter, only 1 man leaves.
This was their special New York Post edition, and so New York Post being the tabloid-ish newspaper that is famous for funny puns in their headlines and stuff. And so the way Punderdome works is that they have like some teams who come up and they'll do like basically challenges. Like they'll give them a category, and then all 6 people will do the category, and then they kind of, pair off, and they pick, 2 people to go on to the next round. And so the final round was like a challenge round, and they gave you some news, like a news story, and you had to come up with a punny headline for that news story. And that was a lot of fun. The event, it was a pretty crowded venue, so we had to get some seats up on like the second level, kind of to the side. But it was still fun to follow along, and I would definitely go again if we ever go to New York again. I'm not sure if it's just a New York thing, or if it's like that they have other events in other cities. But it was cool. Speaking of dad jokes,
Yep.
It was funny.
Well, have you seen Beyond Thunderdome? Have you seen any of the Mad Max movies?
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was related to Mad Max. Fury Road has been on my watch list for a very long time.
Okay, but have you seen Mad Max, The Road Warrior, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and then there's Fury Road is the newest one.
I have not seen any of them.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, but yeah, back when original Australian Mel Gibson for the first 3, and he certainly does more talking in those than Tom Hardy's portrayal does in Fury Road. That's not too much of a spoiler, but if you watch the honest trailer, they talk about kind of like how Mad Max really doesn't talk in Fury Road, which is kind of interesting.
No, I've heard it's great. I've needed to see it for a long time. So
yeah, I saw it at the Draft House. It was definitely a summer movie, and spectacles, cars, explosions, fire, heavy metal. It's all cool.
All the essentials, yeah.
Exactly.
Good deal. Let's see. What else? Do you want to save some of this MCU stuff for next time, maybe?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, no, I went through and I was bored at work, and I was like, what did we miss on our original Marvel episode that we talked about stuff? And so I just went through and I was browsing new news as far as like future plans for all of the Marvel projects in the universe. But yeah, no, certainly there's lots of news to talk about there. And if there's any other fewer points, I know I was texting you before we started recording that I retweeted something cool from a guy named Matt Frad. He has he's a speaker, Catholic apologist, and he has 2 podcasts, Pints with Aquinas and Love People, Use Things. And he shared a video. He's talking to a monk, and he was talking about his rosary and his crucifix on the end of the rosary, and he's like, "Oh, I dropped it," but then he moves the cover, and underneath it there were some relics, and he points out first class relics from 3 different saints, and I was telling you, I retweeted it, and I was like, "Oh, this is such a cool idea for a D&D character." And I was just telling you I retweeted it, and you were like, "Oh, I don't really know what relics are." And
is it like a Doctor Strange thing where it's like you have a relic, it's like a magical thing, or what's the story?
Right. Well, I pulled up the Wikipedia page. I'm certainly no certified apologist, but I mean, as a practicing Catholic, I feel I have a pretty good handle on what it means. So according to Wikipedia, in religion, a relic usually consists of the physical remains of a saint or the personal effects of the saint or venerated person preserved for purposes of veneration as a tangible memorial. So definitely the Catholic Church, we have relics, reliquaries. Reliquaries are things that hold relics, things of saints, of people that we believe that have been canonized officially by the church as like, that's why we have people like St. Thomas Aquinas or St. Francis of Assisi, like, you know, through the church, through the authority and ministry of the church, they're like, you know, they investigated and found miracles, and, you know, it's a whole lengthy process. Not just everyone who dies immediately gets to become a saint. Like, there's a whole process that takes it. But essentially, once that's happened, then it's like anything that person, like from their body or things that they've touched or stuff like that, those become relics. And I popped ahead to the Christianity section on relics, and it says, one of the earliest sources that purports to show the efficacy of relics is found in 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 20 through 21. Elisha died and was buried. Now Moabite raiders used to enter the country every spring. Once, while some Israelites were burying a man, suddenly they saw a band of raiders, so they threw the man's body into Elisha's tomb. When the body touched Elisha's bones, the man came to life and stood up on his feet. That's the NIV translation. But so yeah, in the video that got shared, there was a bone from St. Dominic, there was a bone from a St. Vincent, and there was a bone like from St. Thomas Aquinas. So that's super cool. I, in my life, have had the chance to, to visit churches and see relics of other saints. And there's tours where they'll have relics of saints traveling like the United States, or you can go to the Vatican, and I mean, you can see some of these peoples. You can see incorruptible bodies of saints. Like I think Saint Padre Pio, who I watched a movie of recently as part of my penance, it's an interesting penance. Instead of having to say like 10 Our Fathers or something, like, oh, watch this spiritual movie, and I learned a lot about Saint Padre Pio. Like, that dude was hardcore a saint, and he was a fascinating character. So if you have time to watch that movie, which I feel was pretty good, or just read about the life of Saint Padre Pio, like, that guy was like hardcore, hardcore love Jesus.
Yeah, I think I saw it on your letterbox. I think you saw it was in your history or whatever. Yeah,
no, he definitely fought some heavy spiritual battles. He had the stigmata, which are the Christ wounds, so he actually bled from his hands and stuff like that. And for the longest time, the church was like, you're too much of a mystic, you're drawing attention away from Jesus and stuff, but eventually everything was validated, and so now St. Padre Pio is vindicated, and his life was a testament to Jesus, which is cool. So I geek out about that kind of stuff, and I'm certainly a continuing student of Catholicism, and I certainly am growing to love it more and more every day. I'm not a perfect person. I mean, even in my Twitter bio, it says I'm a sinner, because I definitely acknowledge that.
You are a gentleman and a scholar, as they say.
Well, I appreciate your vote and confidence in that. Your vote of confidence, I suppose, is the right way to say it.
Mm-hmm. Going through the grab bag. Well, go ahead.
Oh, and then I think I was talking to you also in that same preparing for this podcast. I mean, hopefully we're not taking up too much time, but Flash is dying, and I see here in the notes that you have some links to some stuff. So maybe, I don't know if you want to go into a whole thing or if you can give me the gist of it, but why is Flash dying?
Yeah,
it was so cool for us growing up.
This is another item from the little grab bag that is this episode. We were talking about, Kurt was talking about how he was watching the Homestar videos, and I went back to their site and I was clicking around, and they had a note that they were moving a lot of the videos to YouTube so they could be preserved better because Flash is being discontinued. And so Kurt says, what's the deal? So the short version of Flash is that it had its day as a very popular way to animate and have like dynamic content and stuff on desktop browsers, but it was never a very good solution for mobile browsers. And so phones and stuff, it takes a lot of power. You don't really care about it if you have a desktop computer because it's always plugged into power, or even a laptop. Maybe it's okay to get by, but on a phone where resources are very constrained, especially the first iPhone, extremely resource constrained, you don't have the power to load up a Flash plugin. And how do you even use it if your phone is designed for touch? Like tapping with a finger, and Flash is like with a mouse cursor. Those are two very different things. And so those kind of things combined, Steve Jobs wrote a very famous, famous in our circles, letter talking about the decision for iOS to basically not support Flash ever. And they got a lot of criticism for this because they were like, how can we take the iPhone seriously if the browser doesn't even support Flash? It was such a big thing back then. Right. It was ridiculous. But you can read it still. His points are still very sound, I think. And it was kind of another case of Apple kind of leading the way and taking a risky but stance that ultimately proved to be accurate.
Prophecies from the Ancient One.
So the ancient bald one. So iOS never supported Flash, and years later, let me check the date on this link. 2017, last year, Adobe announced that Flash is officially being discontinued, and they're not going to support it at all anymore. And so there have been other technologies to replace it, like HTML5 and some of the dynamic things they support. You can play videos without Flash. YouTube has an HTML5 mode that you can activate if you want to use it without the Flash player and stuff. And even Safari, which is Apple's browser that comes with all Macs, is by default it disables plugins, and so it doesn't play Flash by default and stuff. And so things like that. It's just an interesting little shift in technology. Ultimately, Flash being proprietary, meaning owned by Adobe, and not like an open standard that anybody can access and use.
Right.
That is also kind of a difficult thing for the open web to kind of accept and stuff. So that's the story. I don't know the exact timeline, but you can check the article for when it's going to be officially dead. Let me see if I can pull it up really quick just for curiosity. Yeah. Adobe
the rover that's on Mars, you mean?
No.
For curiosity's sake,
hey, he's
just bored looking at space rocks all day.
The quote from the Adobe article is, specifically, "We will stop updating and distributing the Flash player at the end of 2020 and encourage content creators to migrate any existing Flash content to these new open formats." End quote. Yeah, so that's that.
The end times for Flash are near, 2020.
Yeah, it had a good run, especially during our junior high and high school days. All the Flash cartoons and stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean websites like what was it, Albino Black Sheep, Newgrounds, like all those sites thrived on Flash animation, and some big stars now, like I think Neil Cicierega, that he got his start with Animutation, I think was the name of the genre or the style of using Flash animation to incorporate like Japanese and like just weird oddball things from the internet into an animation.
Yeah, his sister Emmy Cicierega is a graphic artist. I used to follow her blog. I think.
I think I'm still friends with Neil on Facebook, and I follow him on Twitter now. Yeah, he's kind of a Renaissance man. He does videos. He creates videos. He's done Flash animation. He's part of he basically is Lemon Demon, his band. And he, if you haven't listened to his mouth sounds, basically he did like some mashup albums where he just like took snippets of songs and he kind of mashed them together. Like his first one he did, it's kind of like Mussorgsky's Pictures at an Exhibition, but instead of it being like instrumental music, he took Smash Mouth's All Stars, and then he set it to the tune of Pictures at an Exhibition, The Promenade. And then that comes back the whole album, and he's mishmashing other songs together. So he does like, I think like Smells Like Teen Spirit mixed up with Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. And there's a real interesting Loverboy, Everybody's Working for the Weekend mashed up with Smashing Pumpkins, Bullet with Butterfly Wings. Like there's some zany but super concise and super creative and awesome sounding mashups that he's done on those albums, and they're like little earworms. They get stuck in your ear.
Yeah, weird. I never heard of that before. That's cool.
Yeah, and also Potter Puppet Pals was also another big thing. He was
right.
He got popular for on YouTube.
So how are you friends with him on Facebook? Like you're actually friends? Like does he have thousands of friends, or how does that work?
I guess so. Yeah, I just friend requested him and he accepted it.
Oh, and
yeah, so the same thing with some of their other buddies. Like I think Ryan Murphy is another one of his buddies, and then Kevin James, not like the actor Kevin James, but this is like local East Coast Kevin James. He's a super cool dude, super good content creator with making like independent skits and movies, and I think Kevin James actually just finished or is finishing up a documentary on the video game industry as far as like local mom and pop shop retailers for video games. So we'll put a link to that. Shout outs to Kevin James so he doesn't think that I'm a jerk for making fun of his name similarity to the famous actor who we both love. Kevin James. We love the Kevin James.
Is that Paul Blart Mall Cop, or is that a different Kevin James?
Yes, that's the same one. So,
all right.
both Kevin James are awesome. They are awesome sauce for all time.
All right.
Disclaimer, Kevin James is awesome. Paid for by the committee of Kirk Cronenwog's independent opinions. Blah, 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 blah.
I'm Kevin James, and I approve this message.
Yep.
Man, what a grab bag. We're reaching
we hit a lot of things.
Yeah. That's what happens when you don't talk for a month and a half or two. Yep.
Right.
All right.
Well, so now we should let people know that if, they want to contribute to grab bags, or they just want to straight up tell us what do they want to hear from the hacker and the wizard. What do they want to hear from Anson and Kurt specifically? Well, you can reach us on our Facebook fan page. You can reach us on our Twitter account. And you can certainly most reach us at our website, which is blanktape.show. That's it. Straight up. That's all you have to type in the URL bar on your web browser.
And what's our Twitter username?
It should be Blank Tape Show. And you can search for that on both Facebook and Twitter, and it'll pull up to the same graphics that we have on our website, so you can easily recognize us. And we would love to hear from you. I know we mentioned on our bonus episode that just dropped last week that I had gotten immediate feedback from one of my friends, Carla, who said she loved our Cats and Dogs episode. I know I've gotten feedback from my parents, Pam and Wayne, as you may know them from the West Coast EP episode, that they, well, I'm their son. They have to love everything that I do. But they said that they've already learned quite a bit. My dad was like, I didn't know all that stuff about Marvel movies, and now I've totally learned a lot about Marvel movies. And they've loved hearing about all the stuff that you did in college for music, Anson. So, and they both love reminiscing about our high school musical days and stuff. So, yeah, they're quite digging it. So
I've had some feedback from friends too. Just today, a friend at the gym said he liked the CrossFit episode, and another friend said he wanted to hear about Solo, so that one's for you, Steve.
All right. Way to fulfill your request, Mr. Steve.
Yep.
And so we are excited. Now that we're having downloads from overseas, we want to recognize our listeners from overseas. And whether you're from Argentina, Ukraine, France, Spain, Germany, Russia, wherever you're from, we love you, and we want to hear from you too. I know we're just a couple of, 30-year-old white dudes from Texas, but, we're all interconnected in the great family of life. And so we want to share a cool family capsule, if you will, and get you involved. And, we want to see an active, vibrant community and stuff. Right, Anson?
Yep, when your kids listen to this in 20 years, they're going to laugh at us.
Exactly.
or not. Yeah, it's all.
Hopefully, maybe laughing with us. Although, if someone has to be laughed at between the two of us, I can take that. You can be the genius, and then I'll just be the goofball. So.
All right. Well, sounds good. I guess that's the wrap on grab bag number 1. Not official.
It's in the bag.
All right, dude. Until next time.
Alrighty.
See ya.
Adios, amigo.
Are we missing anything? Michael Crichton's Jurassic Time Travel Westworld Murder Park.
I kind of like it when you say it.
Michael Crichton's Jurassic Time Travel Westworld Murder Adventure Park. I can't get through it with a straight face.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah.